The president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, will not attend an Islamic summit in Saudi Arabia this weekend, in which President Donald Trump is a guest of honor. Bashir is on the International Criminal Court's wanted list for committing crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide in Sudan's Darfur region. It's been the site of violent conflict since 2003, when rebels took up arms against the government, accusing it of discrimination and neglect. The United Nations estimates 300,000 people have died and some 2.7 million have fled their homes. Joining us now is Melinda Henneberger, columnist for the Kansas City Star. Melinda, you spent 2 weeks in the region on a trip sponsored by the Sudan Relief Fund. What's the situation like there?
Well, in Sudan, the people have been under attack from their own government headed by Omar al-Bashir for decades. In South Sudan, the situation is even more acute because they're being systematically starved by their government on really with the brink of what a lot of people see as genocide, with many tribal groups fighting the others.
What did the people in Sudan tell you about their president, Bashir?
The part of Sudan that we visited in the Nuba Mountains is such a gorgeous area, and it's a place where Christians and Muslims really get along well, are intermarried, but have been, again, under attack by their government for decades. Bombed, their water poisoned, their crops burned, and now they really are starving and unable to get aid except through the Sudan Relief Fund, because the aid from international groups is cut off, and you really take your life in your hands to go there to deliver humanitarian aid.
When you visited there, were you afraid at all for your own life, your own safety?
I wasn't, but I knew what the situation was. And while we were there were MiGs flying overhead, which really makes people nervous, obviously, because that's usually the precursor to the bombing to start. And there were reports of bombings the day after we left.
Wow. You know, according to the Sudan Relief Fund, 42% of the population in South Sudan is facing famine. That number is expected to increase to 50% by July. What is the Catholic Church doing to try to help people?
The Catholic Church in South Sudan is really one of the only institutions that can be trusted to help, honestly. And there are a lot of groups. The UN does heroic work there. Samaritan's Purse does a lot of great work there. But there's aid being given directly to bishops. There is funding for hospitals, for schools, despite the fact that South Sudan really has almost no infrastructure. It's the youngest country in the world. And, you know, the Holy Father is set to visit there in October. And it's so brave of him to want to bring attention to this situation. But I really wonder, I mean, he will be in danger, and there is very little infrastructure.
Well, I know our EWTN viewers will be praying for the Holy Father during his visit and for that whole region in general. Melinda Henneberger, editorial writer for the Kansas City Star, thanks so much for telling us about your experience.
Thanks for having me, Wyatt.